Welcome to Life Stories, where we share inspiring and transformative journeys that touch the heart and soul. Today's story is about Sarah, a dedicated nurse who, despite facing numerous challenges in her personal life, made a profound impact on a lonely and wealthy man named Mr. Lawson. Through one simple act of kindness, Sarah's life and perspective were forever changed. Join us as we dive into a story of compassion, personal growth, and the priceless lessons that life can teach us. Subscribe to our channel to begin today's story. The air was thick with the scent of rain, and the city's lights reflected off the wet pavement as I walked home after another grueling shift. My name is Sarah, and I've been a nurse for over 3 years, working tirelessly in a private hospital in the heart of the city. There were nights when I barely had the energy to walk, but I kept moving forward. You see, I was the main breadwinner of my family, the one who held everything together. My siblings, my aging mother, everyone depended on me. Every shift was a battle to make ends meet. But I never complained. I couldn't. There was simply no room for weakness. The bus ride home was quiet, save for the rhythmic hum of the engine. I called my mother, as I always did at the end of each day. "Hi, Mom," I said, trying to keep my voice light despite the exhaustion in my bones. "Sarah, my dear, how was work today?" Her voice, though weak, was comforting. Same old," I replied, forcing a smile. "How are you feeling?" She coughed faintly on the other end. "I'm hanging in there, but it's been tough. Your brother's girlfriend is pregnant, and they need money for a checkup. Thank you for sending what you could. But it's not enough." I bit my lip. It wasn't that I didn't want to help. I was just running on empty. But I couldn't bring myself to say that. "I'll send what I can. Don't worry," I reassured her. I knew she could sense the strain in my voice. But she didn't push. "Take care of yourself, Sarah. Don't work yourself too hard." "I'll be okay, Mom," I said quietly, even though I wasn't sure if I truly believed it. "I love you. I love you too, my dear," she replied, and the call ended. As I stepped off the bus, the cold air hit my face like a slap, but it couldn't compare to the weight I carried inside. I could feel it pressing down on me, the exhaustion, the worry, the fear of what might come next. My mother's health was failing, and my brother's reckless decisions were adding to the burden. But there was nothing I could do but keep going. When I reached my apartment building, I froze. The door to my room was locked with thick chains and a heavy padlock. My heart sank. The moment I had feared had arrived. Mrs. Paula, my landlord, had warned me about the rent I owed. But I had been hoping for just a little more time. I knocked on her door, but there was no answer. I knocked again, louder this time. Finally, Mrs. Paula appeared, still holding a fork with a piece of hot dog on it, her face showing no trace of empathy. "What is it?" "I'm eating dinner," she snapped. "Why is my door locked?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. She sighed dramatically, clearly irritated. "Haven't you realized? You haven't paid rent in 3 months. You were supposed to leave if you couldn't pay." I felt the cold hand of panic grip my chest. "I'm sorry, I sent money home, but I'll pay it as soon as I can. Please, just give me a week." "No can do," she replied, her tone final. "Your stuff's out in the hallway. I'm not running a charity." I stood there, frozen in place, unable to find the words. When I finally gathered myself, I walked to the side of the building where my belongings were waiting for me, my suitcase, a few clothes stuffed in a grocery bag, a pillow, a blanket, and a thin mattress. The sight of it all made me want to break down. But I didn't. I couldn't. I sat down beside my things, trying to compose myself. I couldn't go back to the hospital for the night. They had strict rules, and I certainly couldn't afford the bus fare to go back to my family. That's when I remembered Emily. She was a fellow nurse, and though we hadn't known each other for long, we had become close over the past year. She was one of the few people who understood the pressures of my life. I quickly dialed her number, my hands shaking. After a few rings, she picked up. "Sarah, is everything okay?" Her voice was groggy, and I could hear the concern in her tone. I choked back tears. I got evicted. I don't know what to do. Emily, can I stay at your place just for tonight? Of course you can, she replied without hesitation. I'll have my dad drive over to pick you up. Don't go anywhere. The relief I felt was immediate. But I still couldn't bring myself to cry. As I sat there waiting for Emily and her father, I couldn't help but reflect on how hard things had gotten. But in the midst of it all, I felt a small glimmer of hope. Emily was there for me. And that meant the world. I didn't know it yet. But that one small act of kindness was going to change the course of my life forever. The day Mr. Lawson asked me to fulfill his final wish, I had no idea what to expect. I had seen him from a distance, an elderly, wealthy businessman with a reputation for being difficult and sharp-tongued. Nurses whispered about him in the halls, fearful of his temper, but somehow, I didn't feel that same apprehension when I was assigned to care for him. Perhaps it was because I had a different perspective. I had learned over the years that everyone has a story, and that often, people lash out because they're in pain or fear. Mr. Lawson, though bitter and sharp, wasn't someone I wanted to judge based on rumors. He was simply a man who was nearing the end of his life. A life filled with more regrets than accomplishments. It seemed. That day, I entered his room, the sterile smell of antiseptic surrounding me, and I immediately noticed the change in him. He had asked for me specifically, and I had no choice but to follow through with his request. But what could it mean for me to pretend to be his daughter for just one day? Could a mere role-playing give him the peace he needed? Good morning, Mr. Lawson. I greeted him with a warm smile, though my heart felt a little heavy with the weight of what I was about to agree to. He looked up from his bed, his tired eyes meeting mine. Sarah, you are here. Good. I have something I want to ask you. His voice was gruff, but there was something softer beneath it. Something vulnerable that I hadn't noticed before. I want you to pretend to be my daughter, for one day. The words hung in the air, and for a moment, I wasn't sure how to respond. But I could see the desperation in his eyes. This man, so powerful in his youth, so wealthy, was now reduced to a shell of his former self. He had lost his family, and it was clear that the loneliness had eaten him alive. Of course, Mr. Lawson, I said, despite the strange feeling twisting in my stomach. What would you like to do? A small, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corners of his lips. I want to relive one day with my daughter. I don't care about anything else. Just one day to feel like a father again. I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. How could I say no? How could anyone refuse someone their last wish? Especially when it was filled with such genuine emotion. We spent the day together, visiting places that had once been meaningful to him and his daughter. We went to the small park near the hospital, a place he told me he had taken his daughter every weekend. We watched the children play. The paper boats they floated on the river reminding him of the times when he had been the proud father, guiding her with gentle hands. Afterward, we went to a little ice cream parlor he had frequented with her. He told me stories of their trips there, the laughter they shared over vanilla cones and chocolate sprinkles. It was strange to see him smile. And for the first time, I felt like I was truly connecting with him. But the most profound moment came when we went to a bookstore he had loved to visit with his daughter. I could tell it was hard for him, picking up books that she had once enjoyed. But in that moment, I understood. He was living in the past, clinging to the only memories that brought him any peace. Sarah, he said softly as he handed me a book. For you, a gift, in honor of this day. I looked at him in disbelief. You don't have to do that, Mr. Lawson. This day is enough. But he insisted, and as I held the book in my hands, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. His life had been filled with so much material wealth. But today, he was giving me something far more precious, the experience of a father's love. We ended the day by visiting a high-end clothing store, where Mr. Lawson insisted I pick out some new clothes. I had never expected this, an elderly man, once so bitter and closed off, now acting like a father, wanting to spoil his daughter. It was overwhelming. By the time we returned to the hospital, I could see the weariness in Mr. Lawson's face. He was tired, but there was a softness there. A sense of contentment I hadn't seen in him before. As I helped him back into his room, he smiled at me, his eyes filled with emotion. "Thank you, Sarah. This is more than I could have ever asked for." I smiled back, though my heart felt heavy. "I'm just happy I could be here with you today, Mr. Lawson." He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of hope in his eyes. "You remind me of what it means to have a family, even when it seems impossible." That day, as I left the hospital and walked into the quiet night, I couldn't help but reflect on how much we all needed connection. The riches of the world couldn't replace the warmth of love and family. Mr. Lawson had shown me that. The days after Mr. Lawson's passing felt like a blur. I had witnessed his slow transformation, the gradual softening of his heart as we spent that unforgettable day together. He had gone from a man filled with bitterness to someone who, for just one fleeting moment, had felt the love of a daughter once more. I had been there, not as his nurse, but as someone who cared for him deeply. It was a small, but beautiful gift I had given him, and it was a moment I would carry with me forever. But the real change had come after he passed. The news of his death reached me early the next morning. I had just finished a night shift when my phone rang. It was from the head nurse. "Miss Carter, Sarah, I need to speak with you. Please come to my office." A knot formed in my stomach. I had expected a phone call, but nothing could have prepared me for what I heard when I arrived. "Mr. Lawson passed away last night," she said gently, her eyes full of sympathy. "He passed away peacefully in his sleep." For a moment, I couldn't move. I felt as if the air had been sucked out of the room. We had just spent the day together, laughing, sharing memories, and connecting on a level that was deeply human. How could he be gone so soon? The man who had asked me to be his daughter for a day, gone. Tears stung my eyes, but I held them back. I had learned a long time ago that grief often came in waves. And I wasn't ready to let this one take me under just yet. I nodded to Miss Carter, who gave me a brief but compassionate smile before walking away. As I walked down the hallway, a deep sadness settled over me. The hospital, which had always felt like a place of both healing and despair, now seemed colder, quieter. It felt as if the light had dimmed with Mr. Lawson's passing. I knew I had made a difference in his life, but I also knew that he had made a profound impact on mine. I had learned something from him, something that would change me forever. I tried to go through my daily routine, keeping my head down and focusing on my patients. But it was impossible to forget Mr. Lawson. He had left a mark on my heart, and I could feel his absence in the most profound way. The hospital was buzzing with murmurs about his passing, and some nurses even expressed relief that they wouldn't have to deal with his difficult personality anymore. But I couldn't bring myself to feel that way. To me, he wasn't just the wealthy man who had been difficult with everyone. He had been a man who had suffered deeply, who had lost everything and was trying to find peace before the end of his life. A few days later, I received a visit from a lawyer at the hospital. His name was Mr. Sanders, and when he handed me the letter from Mr. Lawson's will, I could hardly believe my eyes. "Mr. Lawson left you something," Mr. Sanders said, his voice steady but filled with a hint of reverence. "He wanted you to have a portion of his estate." My heart raced as I read the words on the document. Farmland in Montana, a vacation house in Colorado, and a significant sum of money in the bank. Mr. Lawson had left me everything. "I can't accept this," I said, my voice trembling. "This is too much." Mr. Sanders smiled gently. "Mr. Lawson thought deeply about this. He told me on several occasions that you were the only one who showed him true kindness without expecting anything in return. He wanted you to have this as a token of his gratitude." As I stood there, overwhelmed with emotion, I realized something profound. It wasn't just about the material gifts he left behind. It was the love, the compassion, and the lessons he had imparted to me during our brief time together. His death had taught me that sometimes, the greatest wealth in life isn't measured in dollars or property. It's measured in the relationships we form, the compassion we give, and the love we share. As time went on, I used the inheritance from Mr. Lawson in ways I never imagined. It wasn't just about the land or the house. It was about creating a life for my family. A life filled with stability and opportunity that I had worked so hard for but never thought would come. I bought a house for my mother and siblings. Something I had promised myself I would do one day. And with the money, I started small businesses, a flower shop and a cafe. Two places that could not only provide for us but also serve as a reminder of the beauty in life. The very thing Mr. Lawson had rediscovered during his last days. But beyond the material blessings, Mr. Lawson gave me something far more valuable. The understanding that life is about more than just survival. It's about love, kindness, and the connections we make along the way. Every day I worked at the flower shop or the cafe, I was reminded of how fragile life is and how important it is to show empathy to those around us. No matter their past, I never forgot Mr. Lawson, and I continued to visit his grave, bringing flowers just as he had once wished. He had taught me that even in the darkest of times, we can still find light. And that true wealth comes from the relationships we build. His death wasn't the end of his story, it was just the beginning of mine. Thank you for listening to this story. Please subscribe to our channel to stay tuned for more life-changing stories that inspire and uplift.